Okay, we are back. It's the next day. I had to take a break from recording, but I'm here to talk to you about the rest of the books. However, before I go on to the non-queer ones, there's a couple more queer ones that I forgot to add, so I'm just going to mention them very briefly now. Okay, so as you can see, we have a literally just announced last night, which is why I hadn't gotten around to adding it to the list. But I had a look on NetGalley because it doesn't have any tags yet, but this has been classed as LGBT. Whether it's YA or adult, I'm not sure yet, but it is a romantasy. And I'm actually really excited about this one because this is a retelling of Ella Enchanted, which is like one of my favourite books of all time, which in its own right is kind of a retelling of fairy tales in general and a bit of a parody of fairy tales. So yeah, really interested to see this. It comes out the 16th of June. It's called Wildflower by Becky Jenkinson, who this is a debut by this author, and it is about a magical florist called Felicity, or Fliss, who essentially is cursed from birth to always tell the truth, hence the Ella Enchanted thing. And she ends up meeting with a handsome sorcerer who is rumoured to have used dark magic. And she ends up helping out with this royal wedding as well at the same time. It sounds really interesting, so definitely one I'm going to be checking out. Then there's also a fiction book that was just announced. There is a picture of it in NetGalley, but there isn't a picture yet on Goodreads. But this is a queer... It's literary fiction, but it's giving me horror a little bit. This is about a queer couple called Claire and Phoebe. They move to the countryside for a fresh start after the miscarriage of their baby girl. However, Claire finds a rabbit and starts to treat her as a surrogate child, and yeah, it starts to get weird from there. It's kind of giving me Starvacre vibes, if you know you know, so I'm wondering if it's going to go down that route or if it's going to be more literary rather than going into folk horror. But yeah, I am interested in that. It sounds really good. So the other books that I hadn't mentioned this one is actually 2027, which is the next book by Andrew Joseph White. It is supposed to be about a cursed boy called Blythe who plans to kill the other apprentice vying for the dangerous position of Beast Warden. It is a monstrous love story. It's specified it's probably coming out 2027, but it may come out next year. Who knows? Maybe we'll get the 4th Locktoon book next year. Who knows? Electa the Ninth would really love it if we got that this year. I need to catch up first, so I'm not mad about it being out just yet, but would love that to come out soon. This is sci-fi queer fantasy. And then other potentials coming out next year. There are rumours that Becky Chambers is doing a sci-fi duology. The 3rd book in the Iron Widow series may come out by Ziran J. Zhao. And there is one book that I found on Instagram. I cannot find it on Goodreads anywhere, but the art kind of sold me for it. It's called Resonance, and it's a queer romance. And yeah, I'll just put the pictures on the screen. I really love it. It's an MM romance between a rock star and an ex-ballet dancer. Slow burn, friends to lovers, grumpy sunshine, kind of taglines that I like. So something I'm very intrigued by. It's by Lily James. Hasn't got a release date yet, but it does say it's coming early 2026. So yeah, one more that I am interested in. So on to the standard adult fantasy books now. This is a very new release. It hasn't actually got a release date yet. It just says it's going to be sometime in 2026. They've just put 1st of January for now. It's not going to be the 1st of January. But it is Tempest by Victoria Aveyard, who has written a lot of stuff. She's known for this Red Queen series, but she is coming out with a book called Tempest. Harper Voyager. The book is inspired by the golden age of piracy, following a former noblewoman facing execution for treason unless she helps the ruling empire capture their most wanted enemy, the last great pirate captain and the only man she has ever loved. So very interested in that one. 2nd of January we have Vampires of Shanghai by Catherine Mercer. This is actually tagged as horror, but I suspect it might get put into the fantasy category. It is about a vampire called Mina who is on the run from her powerful and obsessive creator Lian Zhang, who rules Shanghai with centuries-old charm and terrifying control. She finds an unlikely ally in in Javier Robles, a human donor who wades into Shanghai searching for his estranged sister. So it's going to be a trilogy, apparently, looking at a centuries-old battle for power across continents and empires. On the 6th of Jan, we have the new book by Melissa de la Cruz, who I've definitely heard of her before. I don't think I've read anything by her. She's written a lot of YA, basically, but she's actually coming out with a romantasy on the 6th of Jan, and the main character, called Ring of Fate, sorry, and the main character is a barmaid called Aaron who doesn't believe in fairy tales and then meets a prince who is unfortunately cursed to live in a fairy tale. Basically, he is carrying these cursed rings, which are weapons of power, but magic is actually killing him. So to make the journey to reverse his curse, he needs a bride to hide his secrets. So they do like a fake marriage kind of thing. So it's perfect for people who love The Princess Bride. So I suspect it's going to be more on the comedic side, which works for me, to be honest. This date got changed literally just now, because I had this down as the 6th of January, but it is actually coming out in March, so sorry for that. But it is the start of a new series, romantasy, which is called The Dark Lord's Guide to Dating and Other War Crimes by Tiffany Hunt. Again, we're getting a bit more of a comedic take on romantasy, which I quite enjoy. They don't always work for me. For example, this likens it to Assistant to the Villain, which I didn't like. I didn't find it funny, but there are some that do work for me. Here we go. Step, kidnap someone cute. Step, force her into marriage. Step, try not to catch feelings. It's a dark lord called Casimir Blackrose who kidnaps the Lady Arabella, expecting her to be obedient, trembling bride. However, she's absolutely furious and he gets a knife to his throat instead. Yeah, this is kind of like a couple in hating kind of trope, which I actually quite enjoy. So this could be quite fun. 13th of January, we have a cozy fantasy called A Barista's Guide to Love and Larceny by Caroline Bonin. It combines magic, college life, and first love. So we're following a girl called Dani who is attending her dream university but is struggling to manage classes, shifts at the local cafe, and maintain her partial scholarship, also whilst having magic, I assume. A visiting professor calls her out on her ability, yet he wants to use it to help investigate a soon-to-be-released lucid dreaming product. So she ends up helping him out with this like really dubious product and meets an assistant doing the clinical trials for it who she ends up falling for, I thought. So it's like magic and science, which is interesting. But next we have an Asian magical realist. It's along the same lines as Coffee Gets Cold, all those kind of books. This one's called A Midnight Pastry Shop, called Hua Wol Dang by Li Onhua, and it follows 27-year-old Lian Hua, who has inherited a neighborhood bakery from her grandmother. Curiously, her grandmother's will spells out two conditions. Lian Hua must keep the shop going for at least a month and only open it to customers from 10 p.m. until noon. She soon learns that the shop's name, which means Flower Moon Temple, is not an ordinary dessert shop. The customers who arrive late at night are spirits, there to attend unfinished business before being reincarnated. It sounds really sweet, and I'm looking at the picture here and we've got like cats and dogs, so I'm wondering if they actually come in as animals as well. Next, 13th of January, we have another romantasy, which is a dark academia one this time, and the start of a new series. This is A Vow in Vengeance by Jacqueline Rodriguez. It's tarot magic, which we've obviously kind of seen this year with Arcana Academy. Didn't really work for me, Arcana Academy. So yeah, we're following someone called Rune, Barry Crimson Muffler, who has nothing left to lose. Everything's been stolen by the Immortals, her family, her home, her freedom, but she's done playing by the rules. Each year, humans are forced to journey in immortal realms. Rune basically gets herself into it, and now she must endure the Forge, a cutthroat college for the immortal druid's elusive tarot magic. And of course, there's a prince who's arrogant and probably evil, and they're gonna get together, clearly. But I like the world building of this one. It sounds interesting. And then on the 20th of January, this is not the cover I've been seeing around. Let me swap to the cover I'm used to seeing around. This is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. This is a historical romantasy set in China, I assume. We're following a young rice swap. I can't speak. week we're following a young rice farmer called Yin Wei, who is forced to become a concubine to a prince who is a monstrous wielder of poetry magic, to save her family from a famine, essentially. He and his honourable older brother are locked in a deadly succession war, while the prince himself has 30 concubines fighting a war of their own for the position of future empress. So this is the Bachelorette? No, this is the Bachelor, but make it really dangerous and with poetry magic? I'm very intrigued. Next, we have one that I actually only just found out about in a recent video where someone was talking about books coming out. This is a adult fantasy start of a new trilogy called A Realm Undone by J.L. Leonhardt. From what I can tell, this is actually about a mother trying to protect her teenage daughter, which I really like that dynamic. I'm kind of fed up of teenage heroines. I love having older protagonists, which is why, for example, I loved The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi as much as I did. So this is about a realm that is split in two, with a magical veil firmly placed between the mortals and their immortal rulers, the Tyre. Aelia Meador would happily watch the mortal kingdoms buckle as long as she could keep herself and her teenage daughter Lena alive. After all, her own kingdom, she's a queen. Her own kingdom of Mandal cast her out for her volatile magic. Okay, she used to be a queen. Her daughter is ill. Okay. When the treatment for Lena's illness comes along with a royal order to defend Mandal with the same magic they once spurned, Aelia is caught between protecting the one person she loves and the reckoning she's so long desired. So yeah, I'm very interested in this one. Don't know if this author's written anything else or if it is, yes, it is a debut. Definitely gonna check that one out because it sounds really good. 22nd of Jan, we have Winterborn by Elizabeth Wolfe, which is tagged as gothic, but I do think it's fantasy. I don't think it's going to be horror. So we're following a librarian called Anne Adams, what a name, who is recovering from a car crash that killed her brother, and she ends up on the grounds of this house called Winterborn. The island is owned by the largely absent Lucian Broussard. Its only permanent inhabitants are the Coopers, an odd pairing of gruff brother and sister who live in a cottage by the jetty. Anne will live in the vast house alone. The library is magnificent, with priceless first edition librarian's jeans. I think she's gone there to like sort out the collection or something. And then the Lucian guy shows up. They discuss literature. She falls for him, and then they discover a secret room off the library full of horrendous banned books and the diary of the missing librarian whose experiences at Winterborn mirror her own in an uncanny way. Anything about librarians and books I'm gonna read, and this does sound really intriguing. 22nd of Jan, we have The Saltbind. This is historical fiction about historical fantasy about witches. It's set in 1779 in Cornwall. We follow this woman called Kenza who comes across a dying sea monster, the first of its kind to grace the storm-torn shore of Port's Cathar in centuries. It is an omen. But under the guidance of Isolde, she learns secrets of the old ways, but when Isolde sickens, Kenza turns to the father of storms, a vengeful sea god changed to the ocean, and makes a deal with him. The last one we have for adult fantasy is a new Claire Sager book. I have yet to read anything by her, but I do want to try her stuff. I've heard good things about her. This is this is a romantasy, and it's also a retelling. But what is it a retelling of? Can someone please inform me what this is a retelling of, because I do not know. Oh, a loose retelling of Hades and Persephone. Okay, so it's another Hades and Persephone romantasy. So yeah, this is about someone called Rhiannon who is dying. Okay, so she's the Persephone in this world. She's kept protected in the remote seaside cottage. Her world is torn apart when a Fae king of the dead invades her home. Okay, so it's not like they're not like gods and goddesses in this one. It's like she's a human, I assume, and he is like a Fae king. He offers her a choice to send to the underworld as his bride or watch her family die. She is thrust into a world of withered gods, scheming cautious and ancient magic, but refuses to be pawn in a game she never agreed to play. Interesting. I do like the sound of this. I always like Hades Persephone retellings when Persephone's got a little bit of spunk. I don't like it when Persephone's just kind of boring. So this one could be good. Okay, so next we have I'm guessing this is more of a contemporary romantic fantasy. This is called Books and Bewitchment. It comes out on the 3rd of February by Isla Jewell and is the I want to say the start of a series, but it could be an ongoing one. No, debut author as well. So this is a cozy witchy rom-com about a young woman who works to turn a rundown small-town video store into the bookshop of her dreams, only to discover a powerful magic that's been lying dormant and a forbidden love she can't resist. Oh my god, she has a pet parrot. She lives in Alabama. Her estranged grandmother dies, leaving her everything, including a magical heritage Rhea never knew she carried. Yeah, this sounds really fun. She ends up... Yeah, there's a guy who's the resident handyman. He's also apparently the grandson of her grandmother's sworn enemy in witchcraft. So, yeah, intrigued by that one. Next, the date's been pushed back a little bit, but this is Salt Swept by Catalina Watt, coming out on the 26th of February. It is a... Oh, it's sapphic. This should have actually been in my first section. I apologise, but this is pirate fantasy. Pirate faces the gallows drop. A farmer is given a terrible ultimatum to save her daughter. An acolyte ascends to priestesshood, only to find that a blessing really can be a curse. So it's kind of a quest fantasy about pirates and thieves. I like that this is more epic fantasy because we see so much romantasy. Blurred by Hannah Kana, which definitely gives good vibes. Very interested in this one. Catalina Watt, I believe I have seen around as well. I don't know if she's a booktuber or if she like works for a book company. I'm not sure, but she's definitely like looks familiar to me. Going back to the start of February, however, on the 12th of February is one of my most anticipated books because it is the third book in the Prince of Sin series by Kerry Maniscalco. This is Throne of Nightmares. This is romantasy, following like different princes. I think the first book was, oh my gosh, I can't remember, Wrath, I want to say, and the second one was Envy, which I've not read yet, but this one is going to be Sloth. So, yeah, so this is about Prince Sloth who hates leaving his enchanted library, same, but he must find a mysterious book called the Book of Nightmares. When a betrayal leaves him marked and desperate, his path collides with a young woman who possesses the legendary Phoenix Tear, a portal stone unlike any other. So the girl's a librarian. She's called Lord Brimstone. After visiting a travelling caravan, she quickly finds herself transported to a terrifying but oddly familiar world. Realising they are living out her favourite novels one by one, this sounds so freaking fun. Like, even without this being a series that I'm already invested in, this sounds so fun. I'm very excited for this. Next, on the 10th of February, we have the start of a new series. This is a dark academia romantasy called Wicked Onyx by Debbie Cassidy. Love the cover for it. Really pretty. Born into a sorcerer bloodline, our main character is cursed and cut off. Oh god, this is all in first person. I hate this kind of thing for a summary. Blah, 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 blah. Cut off from her power, accustomed to being an outcast. There is a clue in an ancient text hidden in an academy, so she has to go to the academy. As the last surviving Onyx, I'm owed admission. My plan is simple: find the book, expose the Imperium as the liars they are. Okay, so it's just kind of like the Will of the Many, but make it romantasy protagonist, essentially, is what I'm getting from this. It could be good. I may check it out. I'm going to wait for reviews on this one, I think. Next, another romantasy. This one is Heir of Illusion by Madeline Taylor, coming out the 10th of February. It's about a Fae assassin with the power of illusion, sworn to a king she despises, and an enigmatic Grim Reaper searching for freedom. So, yeah, she's basically like collared to this horrible king, but is plotting to destroy him. Then this Reaper shows up to the city and is looking for the weapon that will actually remove her collar, so I guess they kind of form an alliance. So it could be good. It really depends on the characters, I think, for this one. This one's been pushed back again, so I'm sorry for the dates being all over the place. This was a February date, but it's now actually going to be May. And I'm very excited for this one because I loved the first book in this series, which was Long Live Evil, I think it was. This is the second book in the Time and Iron series called All Hail Chaos by Sarah Reese Brennan. And like, I'm sorry, this isn't the final picture yet, but I love this. This is so freaking good. I really loved the first book. I'm not going to read about what this is because this is a sequel, and I don't really want to be spoiled for it, but essentially it's about a girl who's suffering from a terminal illness and ends up being transported into the world of like her favourite book series, except she is the villainess who is destined to die like very early in, so she has to do things to not die essentially, and ends up making alliances with the other characters who are seen as the villains, and it was just very fun. I really had a good time with it. Next, on the 17th of February, the new book, I don't know if it's going to be a series or if it's just going to be one book, but it's by the author of the Emily Wilde series, Heather Fawcett, and this is Agnes Obert's Mystical Cat Shelter, which already sounds exactly what I want. It's set in 1920s Montreal, about a woman who runs a cat rescue. She turns to a grouchy but charming wizard to help save the shelter in this heartwarmingly cozy fantasy. Everything about this sounds perfect, and this cover is the cutest thing ever, so I'm extremely excited for this one. Next, 17th of February, we have a historical magical realism from Kate Quinn, who I know is quite an established author at this point. I do not remember what else she's written. I do think I've got an arc for this though. Oh yeah, the Briar Club. Yeah, she's written quite a lot, but this is called The Astral Library, and yeah, it poses the question, have you ever wished you could live inside a book? Welcome to the Astral Library, where books are not just objects, but doors to new worlds, new lives, and new futures. So we're following a girl called Alexandria who basically has had a tough childhood. She's gone through the foster care system, but learned that books will never let you down. She takes nightly refuge in the reading room at the Boston Public Library until one day she stumbles through a hidden door and meets the librarian, the ageless, acerbic guardian of a hidden library where the desperate and the lost escape to live two new lives inside their favourite books. Her, the librarian, and a dashing costume shop owner flee through the Regency drawing rooms of Jane Austen to the back alleys of Sherlock Holmes, of the champagne-soaked parties of the Great Gatsby. Sounds really fun. I'm very excited for it. I love me a book about books. 24th of February, we have Weaving Shore by Heber Al-Wasiti. This is a gothic romantasy debut as well. Going to be a trilogy from the looks of it. It is about a young woman who can see the dead, who strikes a deal with a magnetic and dangerous purveyor of dark secrets to save her brother's life. A saint of silence, a ruthless merchant who trades in confessions and is shrouded in unearthly rumours of cruelty and power, accepts her bargain. She must find the ghost of Percival Avon, the last lord of Weaving Shore, or lose her freedom to the saint forever. Interesting. I think they did a big thing for this at Yalk, so I was quite interested in this book. And then the last one we have for February, I couldn't find this on Goodreads yet, but it is on NetGalley with publication date of the 25th of February. This is The Rise of Scarlet Haru by Elizabeth Watson, which is a place called Soleil. In this one, where magic is illegal, politics are deadly, and falling in love is the most dangerous act of all. Scarlet Haru is our main character. She witnesses her father's assassination from mere inches, and so finds herself heir to a political dynasty as she's just inherited his seat in Parliament, and is compelled to fulfill her father's revolutionary dream of opening Soleil's borders to a world of magic her people have long rejected. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. It does say it's a romantasy as well. Perfect for fans of modern fantasy worlds of Crescent City and Zodiac Academy. So yeah, I am intrigued. That is it for all of the February books. Okay, so moving on to March. On the 3rd of March, we have the start of a new series, which is a dystopia romantasy called To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast. Enter the brutal world of Endlock, a prison where the wealthy hunt the inmates for sport. It's a debut as well. It's about forbidden love, found family, and a fight for survival, which will leave you breathless. I love this kind of dystopia sort of thing where it's almost Hunger Gamesy battle royale. So yeah, interested for sure in this one. Apparently in the city the law is simple: commit a crime and your punishment is a life sentence in Endlock. Our main character is Raven. She is a bounty hunter, but when her younger brother Jed is sentenced to Endlock, Raven will do anything to save him, even if it means getting herself arrested. Okay, so she's trying to save her brother, but ends up falling for one of the prison guards. Because of course she does. That's what we call Stockholm Syndrome love. Then 3rd of March we have The Library of Amelin by Callian Josephson. This is a adult romantasy. We're following a con artist called Kassira, who expected to spend her life as a soldier, hunts down magical creatures for the fanatical kingdom of Kalphos. She ends up finding herself swept into the biggest con of her life, however, infiltrating the library of Amelin, which is actually... okay, so the library is politically neutral, apparently, and they're looking for a way to destabilize the library from the inside. Interesting. So this is kind of a heist kind of book. I'm definitely intrigued. I do like the cover for this as well. I think it's really pretty. Next, one that I've been seeing around for ages, and I really thought this was coming out last year, but apparently it is actually going to be coming out on the 5th of March, is The Last Starborn Seer by Venetia Constantine. This cover is everything. It is absolutely stunning. I remember getting a bookmark for this, not Yalk Just Gone, but the year prior. So that's how long this has been kind of around. The following... Lelani Stellarian, who is the last surviving member of an ancient bloodline. She's shunned for using starborn magic that grants her prophetic visions and also slowly corrupts her mind. Her father brokers an arranged marriage with her childhood rival, and to make matters worse, her mother's health is failing by the day, and Lelani believes her magic is to blame. When prophecy reveals the existence of a relic that could end the sickening, which is this curse that's been going around the realm, Lelani basically tries to look into it. If she's to succeed, she must forge an uneasy alliance with sworn enemies, outwit rebel forces, and hide her growing feelings for a rival envoy, all under the gaze of her watchful fiancé. So yeah, it does actually sound pretty good. I feel like this is the first time I've read the summary for this. I've just mostly been obsessed with the art, because why would you not be? Really, it is gorgeous, but it actually does sound like it could be quite good as well. It's been getting so much hype, so I'm hoping it is actually good after all the push it's been getting by publishers. Next, we have a historical fiction fantasy called Entwined, which is going to be a duology by H.M. Long, and it is about three sisters who are looking for a stolen magical artifact in the start of this Gilded Age fantasy. Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's these three sisters and they're trying to find an artifact in a city torn apart by prejudice and violence. I do like the cover for this one as well. I think it's pretty. Next, we have a dragon romantasy. This one is Ruinous Creatures by Jessie Cole Jackson, coming out on the 10th of March. It says it's for fans of One Dark Window and T. Kingfisher. It's a standalone romantasy debut. I love that it's a standalone. We so rarely see this nowadays. About a woman who accidentally awakens the power to siphon magic from two phoenix skulls, binding her fate to a vengeful stranger and forcing them to navigate the devastating cost of their unbreakable bond. There is this basically sanctuary for magical creatures who Adela works at, it looks like, or she looks after them. But she discovers these two phoenix skulls, can't resist the pull of their magic, and awakens the skulls. And a determined novitiate, Kian, prepares for this matching ceremony that was supposed to be to do with the phoenix skulls, essentially. But he is only participating in order to destroy the magic of the skulls to avenge the death of his parents at the hands of this tradition of power. So yeah, it's got interesting world building from the sound of it. Next we have a cozy fantasy called Spellbound by Murder, part of a series. It's not got good ratings at the moment from the few people that have rated it, sadly. It's by Stacey Ramey. Described as Gilmore Girls meets Charmed, featuring a magical bookshop run by three generations of women. It does sound interesting. It does sound very Charmed, I've got to say. I'm wondering why people are not liking it. Okay, the vibes are that it's just fine, I think, but I may still check it out because I'm kind of intrigued. Next, Ava Reid, another highly anticipated book coming out on the 17th of March. This is the start of a series, which she doesn't do very often, but this is Inamorata, which is a gothic romantasy, dark academia, about necromancy, vengeance, and soul-consuming love. Once there was an island where the dead walked the earth, and 7 noble houses ruled by the arcane secrets of necromancy. Are the last living members beautiful Marosia, the heiress to the house, and her cousin, the uncanny Lady Agnes. Though she has not spoken a word in 7 years, Agnes is the true carrier of the house's legacy, and she has her orders. She must recapture the secrets of death magic and avenge her family's fallen honour. She must also arrange the betrothal of her beloved cousin Marosia to Lyoprand, heir to the Conqueror's throne, for access to the Forbidden Library in his grotesquely grand castle. And she ends up falling for... Oh, she ends up falling for the prince instead. So that's slightly awkward. But yeah, I love Ava Reed. I'll read anything that she writes, so I'm definitely going to pick this one up. 17th of March, we have another ridiculous paranormal romance kind of thing called Accidentally Wedded to a Werewolf by Isabel Taylor. I just kind of want to give these a try because they sound like they'll be fun, to be honest. It's set in Alaska. Welcome to Claw Haven, where monsters go to find some peace and quiet. So this spoiled heiress called Luna finds herself there accidentally, but it's a cozy town full of monsters living the quiet life. At least the werewolf innkeeper's hot until he opens his mouth. Oh no, she's not only werewolf married though, not married like legally, no big deal. It could be fun. I might check it out. We'll see. Next, a cozy fantasy about witches called By Sea and Wagner comes out 17th of March. This is The Somewhat Wicked Witch of Brigandale. Great title. A practical witch must sabotage her beloved son's ascension to the throne in order to keep the kingdom from ruin. Again, we've got a mother in this one, which I really enjoy. Yeah, we have a somewhat wicked witch named Gratzella who lives in a cozy cottage. Then one afternoon, she finds a baby on her doorstep, takes him in. He's called Bradley. Turns out he's probably the Lost Prince. More woodland animals start prophesying that he is a Lost Prince and should ascend to the throne. But soon confusion and chaos are reigning, and scheming courtiers are using Bradley for their own ends. Sometimes a witch has to roll up her sleeves and take matters into her own cauldron. Sounds so fun. 17th of March, we have a fantasy horror also about witches, described as Rebecca Meets the Craft. This is Only Spell Deep by Ava Morgan. We follow a woman called Judith Cole who has had uncanny abilities. She arrives at her grandfather's estate by the sea, is forced to keep the magic secret. 17 years later, however, she's now living in Seattle as a totally different person, but gets swept up into a world of secrets and magic. Discovers a circle of powerful new companions led by the mysterious, enigmatic Arla. The source of their magic is a goddess trapped and bound that they call the Fathom, but Jude swiftly realizes Arla wants this power all to herself and that she's willing to kill for it. Interesting. Next, on the 24th of March, we have Aicha by Soraya Boazawi. This is a historical fiction retelling. This is a Portuguese tale, I believe, retold. It is described as the ultimate female rage fantasy. We're following Aicha, who is the daughter of a Moroccan freedom fighter who was born by battle. She's witnessed the death of her people, and it has awakened an anger within her. Only Aicha's secret lover, Rachid, a rebellion leader, knows how to soothe her. But as the fight for Morocco's freedom reaches its violent climax, the creature that simmers beneath Aicha's skin begs to be unleashed. So, woman rage book, basically this is. It doesn't really tell me a lot about the plot, I've got to say, but I also don't know the original story. So I feel like it is going to do something because it's a retelling of something. It's also tagged as sci-fi. Interested to see where that's going. 24th of March, we have another fantasy book about witches. There are so many witch books coming out in this month. This is The House of Spells and Secrets by Ivy Cassidy. 3 sisters return to the house that holds their forgotten legacy, and the secrets their mother never told them. A sweeping story of resilience, magic, and sisterhood. So it's 3 triplets, Sasha, Caroline, and Rowan. Their mother drowned, so they try and to go back to the manor, basically, to find secrets, and they also find their magical gifts. Beneath the house is more than crumbling brick and weathered stone. It breathes with magic, but as they discover more, Rowan begins to suspect that her mother's drowning was no accident. That does actually sound really good. I really like the cover as well. I think it's really pretty. 24th of March, Mark Lawrence is coming out of a new series. He writes kind of gritty, dark fantasy, epic fantasy kind of stuff. So this is very much him going back to this after he read the library books, I think. This is The Daughter of Crows. The survival of a brutal academy must exhume her own past. So there is a place called the Academy of Kindness, creates agents of retribution cast in the image of the Furies. Each year 100 girls are sold to the Academy. 10 years later, only 3 will emerge. Jesus. The few that survive its decade-long nightmare have been forged on the sands of the Wound Garden. They leave its gates as avatars of vengeance. Only the most desperate would sell their child to the kindnesses, but Rue, she sold herself. And now a lifetime later, just as she has discovered peace, war has been brought to an old woman's doorstep. Oh! Okay, so this is actually not about them when they've just left. This is about her after she's done all this stuff, and she's an old lady and she's been brought back into it. Okay, that is interesting me a whole lot more. That sounds really interesting. 31st of March, we have a cozy romantasy historical. This is A Widow's Charm by Caitlin Paxson, pitched for readers of Freya Marske and India Holton, which makes me think it could be queer actually in that case. It is a comedy of errors-esque fantasy romance in which a clever widow blackmails her rakish necromancer neighbour to bring her husband back to life and save her home, only to find herself falling for him. Coming out 31st of March, we have another fantasy romance. This is This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews. I think I just read the premise for this the other day and it sounds really interesting. Yeah, fans of Samantha Shannon, Sarah J. Maas, Daniel L. Jensen, and isekai portal fantasy. Maggie wakes up cold, filthy, in a gutter. It doesn't take her long to recognise Kaer Torin. It's a city she knows intimately from the pages of a famously unfinished dark fantasy series, one that she's been obsessively reading and rereading while waiting years for the final novel. We've all been there. So yeah, it's an isekai. She's been stuck in this world. Her only tools, very much like in Long Live Evil, is her knowledge of the plot and the characters and the setting. She quickly discovers she cannot be killed, though many will try. The same cannot be said for the living, breathing characters she's come to love, a motley band that includes a former lady's maid, a deadly assassin, various outrageous magical creatures, and a dangerously appealing soldier. Yeah, that sounds really good. I would definitely down to read that. I believe it's also been getting special editions recently. And the last book for March, coming out on the 31st, with another stunning cover. This is a historical cozy fantasy called The Geomagician by Jennifer Mandula, and it is about a Victorian fossil hunter who discovers a baby pterodactyl and vows to protect him with the help of her former fiancé. That's all I need to know. This sounds brilliant. Okay, into April now, and we're starting off on April the 7th with The Book Witch by Meg Schaefer. She wrote The Wishing Game, I believe, and then I think has come out with another book, but I don't think many people liked it. I haven't read it yet. I did really like The Wishing Game though. And she's going into magical realism now, and more witches. There's so many witches so far this year. Witches and vampires seems to be the thing so far. So we're following a character called Rainy March. That is such a bad name. Proud third generation book witch, sworn to defend works of fiction from all foes, real and imaginary. With her magical umbrella and feline familiar, she jumps in and out of novels to fix malicious alterations and rogue heroes. Then her grandfather disappears and a priceless book is stolen. There's only one person she trusts to help her solve the case, the Duke. Their quest takes them through the worlds of Alice in Wonderland, The Great Gatsby. Okay, this sounds exactly like the Astral Library, only cozier. So that's a thing. Moving on. April, we have another cozy fantasy called The Tricky Business of Fairy Bargains by Rena McCarty, which is about a former changeling who returns to the land of Fae to right a bargain that's gone terribly wrong. It is a fantasy debut, and yeah, she also has a pesky ex-boyfriend, so I guess that comes into it. 9th of April, we have I want to say this is a prequel. Yes, this is a prequel, I think, because it says 1.1 of the Chronicles of Ozref. Oh wait, this is by the same author of The Goblin Emperor, and this is kind of like a spin-off set in the same world of The Goblin Emperor, which, as you can see, I've not read yet, but I want to read, and I know it's very well loved. Yeah, this is a mystery sci-fi novella about someone called Ulsetha, who is studying at the University of Colorado, working his way towards becoming a scholar first class in the Department of History. Then a prized artifact disappears, and he's framed for it and kicked out. Craziness happens, it kind of looks like, and there is a puzzle that leads him back to the Department of History and a chance to clear his name. So I feel like you may need to read The Goblin Emperor to do this. I don't know if it's possible to read this without reading The Goblin Emperor, but I am intrigued because I do want to read that book. Let me know down below though if you feel like this is something that you do need to read The Goblin Emperor to understand. I suspect this might be a prequel about one of the characters, but I do not know. On a totally different kind of vibe, however, is on the 23rd of April, Mermaid in Manhattan by Jessica Gadziala. This is a paranormal romance about a mermaid called Iris, who is the daughter of the Queen of the Ocean, who declares that she has to be wed to a human, and that human is the first human mayor of magical New York. So it's kind of an arranged marriage kind of deal, and they don't get on, but I'm assuming they will get on. So it sounds pretty fun, to be honest. Next one I'm very highly anticipating because it's the new book by Sydney J. Shields, who wrote The Honey Witch, which was one of my favourite books of last year. This is a dark academia romantasy. So The Honey Witch was sapphic. This potentially could be either poly or bisexual, I think. But yeah, it's a historical dark academia filled with secret societies and dangerous deals made after dark. So, we're following a girl called Claudia who was rejected from a university. Then a devilish stranger named Dorian appears in her nightmares and offers her a bargain. He will get her into the university if she learns how to free him from a prison of stars. He takes a bite of her soul to steal the deal. Then, basically people are kind of suspicious about her arriving, especially because someone died who she's taken the place off in the university. So she's trying to clear her name, basically, as well. She's also getting involved with the High Sage's apprentice, called Cassius. So this could be going into a why choose kind of thing. I'm not mad about it if it does. I will read it because it's Sydney J. Shields. And I love them. Next is Bloodbound by, this is not their name, I don't know why this is what they're called. I think this hasn't been updated on Goodreads, but it's actually by Ellis Hunter, who I believe is actually two friends writing together. And this is a dragon romantasy. It's going to be a trilogy, but it is a debut. So it is a once-in-a-generation duel to the death between rival witches and dragon riders as they battle to control the source of all magic in their kingdoms. So we're following Astrid, who is the last witch and heir to Queendom of Arturia, cursed by a centuries-old covenant to duel the heir to the kingdom of Vatra for the source of all the heart. So he's like a dragon rider, she's a witch, they're gonna have to fight each other, and I guess they end up falling for each other. Also, there's someone else called Skylar who has a traveling troupe and their fates intertwine, apparently. So this could be, is this, no, it doesn't say it's sapphic, but that is the vibe I was getting, but I don't know, I guess we'll find out. I'm intrigued though. Next, 14th of April, we had The Killing Spell by Shay Coway. This is an indigenous adult fantasy. It is set in a future where language magic reigns, and a young Hawaiian woman must solve a murder to clear her name. So at just 25 years old, Kia Petrova is the youngest of 5 Hawaiian clan leaders living on the homestead in outer Los Angeles. They're all kind of like, a flood submerged all the Hawaiian islands, basically, so she's struggling to keep her clan afloat. Just when she thinks things can't get any more complicated, the murder of Angelo Rios, LA's most prominent Filipino activist, turns her world upside down because he was killed by a death spell, something that apparently can only exist in Hawaii. So it's kind of like a mystery as well, which sounds really interesting. 21st of April, we have another cozy fantasy. This one is called Second Time's a Charm, and we're following Reese, who thought she solved her problems the best way she could by running away as far as possible. Now she's happy, if not just a bit bored, running a magical flower shop with her best friend, until she receives notice that she's inherited her father's sanctuary from magical creatures. And her ex-boyfriend is there, so she is dodging fire-spitting chickens and a poisonous porcupine, and also dealing with an ex-boyfriend, I guess. But sounds fun. Giving me the Phoenix Keeper vibes, to be honest. And then on the 21st of April, we have a historical fae fantasy called Thistle March by Muria Corrigan, which I think sounds Irish to me. Let's have a look. Denver, the United States, never mind. She did, however, go to the University of Edinburgh, so mayhap. So we are... In the wake of World War I, the world is a decidedly unmagical place for Mouse Dunn. She once dreamed of becoming a fairy anthropologist, but with one telegram her world shattered. Then she receives news her uncle has left her the fairy-blessed Thistle March Hall. But there is a catch. If Mouse does not rehabilitate the crumbling house, in 1 month's time she will forfeit her inheritance. And then a mysterious fairy appears with a proposition. Okay, that actually sounds quite interesting. I like the idea of her having to, like, rehabilitate this house, basically. And the final book for April is Death Meets Cute by Jay Penner. This is another cozy fantasy. It is about someone called Iris, who wants to be a villain, but after helping her sisters unleash a spell to throw the realm into the chaos, she feels strangely empty. And then she goes, she finds a little cottage, and when her bodyguard disappears, she needs new muscle and hires an orc who just topples over into her yard. Oh, he died. So, the Death Meets Cute. Okay, he dies, she reanimates him, and now he's her new bodyguard. But Talon isn't the brooding warrior she was hoping for. He's gentle, he bakes. Worst of all, he's nice. Iris can't possibly have a thing for her new employee. She's supposed to be the most wicked witch in town. That sounds really funny. Yeah, so that's all the April books. Into May now, we have a new book by S.A. Barnes, who I believe is more of a sci-fi horror writer. Yeah, they do a lot of horror, a lot of it is sci-fi, so I guess this is their first fantasy, and it's a romantasy. It does have horror tied to it, and it's dark academia. So this is about Jocasta, who is at Beecher University, and she's the only child of death. Okay, yeah, this actually does just sound like a romantasy, which is not what I expected from S.A. Barnes. This university, she is kind of a disappointment to her father, because she doesn't like to kill people, and then a sexy stranger and descendant of lust shows up on campus because Death just named her as his successor, making her a powerful ally and a massive target. Interesting. The tagline is, life is a battlefield, death is just a girl. I don't know if I like the sound of that, but I do want to read S.A. Barnes, so I might try her sci-fi first. Then another romantasy coming up the 19th of May, we have Strange Familiars by Keisha Chow. We're following Gwendolyn Chan, who is at the Seamere College of Magical Veterinary Sciences. So she's trying to heal animal companions, essentially. She's the top student, as long as the pretentious person Harris Ford Briggs doesn't beat her to it. That is a bad name. Yeah, so it's a rivals kind of thing. There are strange whispers of uncontrollable surges of excess magic, so they have to try and figure some stuff out, and they have to put aside their dueling feelings to team up to diagnose the problem. And she has a snarky cat familiar. Sounds a little boring, to be honest, compared to some of the other cozy fantasy stuff, but it could be fun. I think it really lives or dies with the characters in this one, to be honest. But then next we have a mermaid retelling. This is The Palace Beneath the Sea, following Nolwenn, who is sure that her life's purpose is to defend her beloved city of Ys as a lighthouse keeper. But when a dangerous tide threatens it, the queen instead tasks Nolwenn with collecting enough rare sea silk to shield the city from deadly sea monsters. She's saved by Morven, who is a Corrigus and has the torso of a human and the tail of a fish. Okay, it's a merman. He drags her deep beneath the sea to the coral palace and falls for him, I guess. So yeah, it's like a reverse Little Mermaid, basically. Then on the 12th of May, we have Deathbringer by Sonia Tagliaferri. This is a dark academia fantasy for fans of Naomi Novik and Carrie Maniscalco, both whom I really like. It is necromancy, forbidden love, and a twisty murder mystery set within the perilous halls of a magical institute as a death mage who hates her magic and a poison mage who hates her are forced to work together to stop a killer before one of them is next. That actually does sound really fun. So yeah, that sounds like it could be a very fun enemies to lovers. Then we have a Japanese mythology based fantasy, which is going to be the start of a trilogy apparently. This is The Rain Shadow Orphans by Naomi Ishiguro. Inspired by Japanese folklore and Studio Ghibli, set within a mystical archipelago brimming with dragons and sun spirits, high-tech hackers, and bubble tea. So it's like a cross between modern historical, I guess. It's about a family bonded through loyalty, if not blood, who live outside the law, and who are seeking revenge for the murder of their beloved aunt, Reiko. Haru is the son of the emperor, destined to one day rule over the archipelago and uphold his mother's ignoble legacy, but he's more interested in making friends with magical sun spirits it seems only he can see. And then we're also following Theo, who is a reluctant foot soldier for this criminal underground organisation. He doesn't want to be a gangster, but as an illegal immigrant to the city, his choices are severely limited. And when one of the girls in the family steals a dragon pearl, it sets them all on a thrilling path which will determine the future of Rain Shadow City. The characters sound really interesting for this one. So yeah, the characters and the world building, very intriguing. 2nd of June, we have a book by Catherine Arden, who is obviously quite a well-known author at this point. She wrote the Bear and the Nightingale trilogy and recently The Warm Hands of Ghosts, and this is The Unicorn Hunters. It comes out on the 2nd of June and is a historical fantasy. An orphan duchess must journey into a world of myth and there discover a power that may be her salvation or her demise. So we're following Anne, whose royal father was driven to her death, and now she's basically broke. She's ordered under threat of renewed war to become queen of her conquerors and marry the king of France. Defiantly, she betroths herself in secret to France's greatest enemy, and she takes her court deep into a legendary forest and is looking for a unicorn, basically, to try and find salvation. Next, we have, on the 9th of June, another fantasy romance, but one that's definitely going into the humour side. This is Hopeless Necromantic by Shiloh Breyer. 4 years ago, Sikras Nichabod, what a name, had it all: a beautiful wife, friends and family, and the endless luxuries that came with being the all-powerful necromancer to the queen. Now his brother-in-law is a walking corpse, he's wanted for tax evasion, his oldest friend Vesic has slaughtered thousands of the Queen's people with a skeleton army, and his wife is dead. Sort of. Okay, yeah, that sounds really funny. And Ashley Poston, who does write romance, but her romance always has, like, a lot of her romance has a little bit of a magical kind of twist to it. I read The 7 Year Slip, which I really liked. I haven't read her other books, but I do want to try them. So this is her next one, basically. And we are following the new head gardener at the enchanting Lilymore house, who stumbles upon a secret garden with a mysterious man trapped inside. So very much the vibe, I think, of 7 Year Slip in that kind of thing. But she's quite popular, so I think it'll do well. 30th of June, we have Witch Season by Julia Bianco. Perfect for fans of Juno Dawson, Leigh Bardugo, and Buffy. It isn't tagged as LGBT, but given they've kind of said Juno Dawson, I'm kind of expecting it might be. It is an enemies to lovers urban fantasy from debut author and screenwriter Julia Bianco. So we're following Catherine, who is an enforcer charged with upholding the rules of the notorious Los Angeles-based Coven. She owes her life to Sylvia Page, Coven leader and silver-haired rebel. When Silas Cattry, heir to Noctis, the most powerful coven in the world, arrives to take the coven to task for some of their more unconventional practices, her dislike for him reaches blistering levels. So yeah, enemies to lovers, I'm guessing. But a powerful threat is about to rise, stronger than any one coven, one that will put Catherine and Silas together despite their differences. And then finally, we have one of the most gorgeous covers I've ever seen. This is Everybody's Perfect by Jo Walton, should be coming out the 30th of June, and it is a Venetian fantasy. Cozy, I believe, as well. So, the Serenissima is built from mist and belief, a mythical shadow sister to Venice, and crossroads of the 9 worlds. When a labourer called Thierry has a dream that Serenissima will have a doge, and that they will marry the sea, he tells it to a fortune teller. She tells her apprentice, a gondolier calls someone else, who tells a cop, who's heard it from 5 people. And yeah, so it sounds like it could be quite whimsical. is the vibe. It's giving me like Chrestomanci a little bit, but we'll see. It's not super long either. It's like 207 pages. Okay, on to the last of the adult fantasy. We're in July now, and Talia Hibbert is actually coming out with a romantasy. Talia Hibbert obviously wrote a lot of black romances. That's kind of her thing. The Brown Sisters series. She may have written some fantasy before though, looking at some of these older books of hers, but it's the Brown Sister books that I know have made her popular. I also didn't know she was British. But yeah, she's writing her debut fantasy novel. It doesn't say anything about what it's about, but apparently it's been pitched as a spicy, magical Beauty and the Beast retelling. The next, Eliza Chan also has another book coming out, expected around July. It's called Harbour of Hungry Ghosts, and it is about a family of demon hunters who struggle with unfamiliar monsters, ancestral expectations, and the British Empire in Opium War era Hong Kong. Back on covers again now. We've got an epic fantasy coming out on the 7th of July. Love this cover, by the way. This is The Revenant of Surlethia by Florence Chien. This is giving me queer vibes as well, but it isn't tagged, so I can't tell. But it is political fantasy, empire identity, and impossible choices. So we're following someone called Lucas, who basically the Empire is all about colours. When the Empire of Colours slaughters 17,000 of his silver-eyed kin, Lucas buries his hatred, hides his eyes behind coloured lenses, and vows to become the Imperial Gendarmery's commander. Then there's a usurped prince called Faye who wants his throne back, and he wants to try and get Lucas to basically like help lead a rebellion, essentially. When Faye's escape costs Lucas' promotion, however, Lucas adds revenge to his list of reasons to stop the bloody revolution. If they can't unite their forces against an Imperial fleet, however, there will soon be nothing left of the people they're both trying to liberate. So, yeah, interesting characters, I think, in this one is going to be. Then, coming out on July the 7th, we have The Inn at the Foot of Mount Vengeance by Kiara Bullen. This is about an ambitious young scholar who is sent to research the mysteries of an adventurer's inn to discover a centuries-old secret. So we're following Ainsworth, who is a young scholar, ready to make his mark on the world. His supervisor sends him to Mount Vengeance, basically, and there he meets an inn, grudgingly warms to its rustic charm and its lovely innkeeper Honey. So, a bit of a romance as well, but there's kind of a mystery going on in this one. She looks so much like Jester from Critical Role, though. I love he's got these antlers, though. That's such a cool design choice. 7th of July, we have another cozy fantasy. This is called The Fair Witch of Fox Holler by Ellen Pauley Goff. Steel Magnolias meets practical magic in this charming contemporary fantasy debut, in which a 30-something kitchen witch whose recipes have the power to heal is recruited to help a reclusive warlock and discovers love on the other side of the next bake. So, kind of best hex ever vibes, I guess. Sounds pretty cute. Then, one that hasn't got a cover yet, but it sounds really interesting. I think this author has written other things before. Okay, so it's actually M.A. Carrick is a joint pen name of Marie Brennan, and who wrote the Lady Trent series, and Alec Helms, who has also written stuff. They've also written the Mask and Mirrors series. That's where I've heard that before, which is like a Venetian kind of fantasy. So this is their new book. It's historical alternate history kind of thing called The Eye of the Leviathan. And it's set in an alternate Spanish Golden Age where the map becomes the territory and map makers are the architects of reality. Following Estevan, who seeks power with the Council of the Sea Beyond, but risks the exposure of his own secrets too, for he is a changeling, a fairy masquerading as a mortal, and for a fairy to enter the mortal world like that, a child must go the other way. On the flip side, there is the hungry girl whose place he took. Lost among the Fae and desperate to find some purpose for a pitiful existence, she leaps at the chance to help a group of Spanish explorers, only to be horrified at the atrocities they commit. Soon the unlikely siblings will need to overcome their rivalry. So yeah, historical fantasy duology. Very interesting setting going with Spanish Golden Age. Then another cozy fantasy. This is the third book in the Spell Shop series by Sarah Beth Durst. I did quite like the first book in that series. This is Sea of Charms, and we're following Marin, who is a supply runner. Her only companion is a sea serpent called Perry, One day she sails to Elysium and discovers the city is on fire, and she meets a composer called Dax, who I guess she helps out, and probably goes into romance. Sounds cute enough. Next, another one that hasn't quite got a cover yet, but this is 28th of July. We have Theodora's Tea Shop by Christy Ann Jones. Another cozy fantasy about learning to love ourselves. Dorothy Louise Walcott should have died when she was 14. Instead, she grew into a timid young woman, frugal, ill, overeducated, and dreaming ceaselessly of running away to learn magic. She sets off on a journey and is determined to find a witch called Theodora, who is everything Dot wants to be, beautiful, witty, and confident. However, her arrival unearths Theodora's eldritch secrets, threatening to topple the witch's empire and take them both with it. So it's 1920s inspired. That does sound quite fun. If you love Howl's Moving Castle, you will adore this book, it says. Next we have another epic fantasy. This is by two authors from the looks of it, Michael J. Sullivan and Lorien Ellis. It's coming out on the 3rd of August and it's called Out of the Ashes. What do you do after the world ends? So following the description of the city, the choices of three simple people will change the future forever. One decided she didn't deserve to die, another resolved to be the ruler he was meant to be, and the third went in search of a nefarious wizard named Esrahadon. So yeah, this is a debut novel apparently. Have they written anything else? It's only talking about Michael J. Sullivan, so I don't know if it's like a pen name or something. Okay, he's definitely written some stuff from the looks of it. And this is someone else who is their debut. So, yeah, don't know a lot about that one, but sounds interesting. Next, 4th of August, we have The Iron Hex by Victoria Sess Walsh. This is about a woman called Era who has spent her years having a quiet life in a small town, except she doesn't remember anything about her past. And then someone called Hugo walks through her door and seems to know who she is. But then a terrifying encounter with an unnatural, deadly new breed of soldier puts a price on her head. She has no choice but to join Hugo on his quest. There's a whole thing of a missing princess in this one, so I have a suspicion that's who she is. This could be a little bit Tangled inspired, maybe, I'm not sure, but guess we'll find out. 18th of August, The Salt King by Natasha Pulley. This is about a priest called Avalon who was born into a mining family in a small isolated salt town. He fled at age 16 when a fellow priest was miraculously healed, only to then be turned to salt. Avalon is sent to investigate. When he arrives, the town's doctor tells him that the priest is not the only one experiencing strange cures. So Avalon and the town's Dr. Jericho team up to protect the town from this strange salt thing that's going on. It's set in Poland as well, so yeah, interesting sounding, this one. Queer romance. This should have been in the first section. You live and you learn, I guess. Well, there we go. See, they need to add more tags to these books. August 25th, we have The Art of Charming a Changeling by Sylvie Cattrall, which I've definitely heard. Yes, Letter to the Luminous Deep. I did start this and quite liked it. Cozy slice of life romantasy set in a Regency-inspired world of enchanted galleries and fairy artistry. On her first day working in the Prince's galleries, art conservator Florrie discovers that the most famous portrait in the collection is not only a fake, it's also inhabited by a fairy. So she's trying to find the stolen original along with the fairy. So that sounds really fun, actually. 25th of August, we have Heir of Prophecy, which is a dark academia. It's going to be a romantasy duology following a young woman who finds herself the chosen one to two conflicting prophecies. Oh, this is from the author of Lore of the Wilds, which I've not heard great things about, so my anticipation for this one's kind of gone down a little bit. Basically, yeah, she's a human, magic's on the edges, and then she's kidnapped from her home and taken to a school to be trained as a soldier by fae beings who are an ominous presence with a cult-like mentality. And basically she is trying to find out what exactly it means to be an heir. It sounds good, the cover's gorgeous, but I did not hear good things about Lore of the Wilds. So next, 25th of August, we have The Dark in Her Veins by M.K. Lobb. This is a noir romantic fantasy set in a world in which sin is a fatal disease and the rich hire the poor to carry out their basest instincts. So we are following Talon Keller, who is a sinner. Employed by the holiest man in the city, she gets her hands dirty so his can stay clean, and with her blood rot rapidly advancing, she knows her next drug could be her last. But she ends up on a collision course with a figure known as the Warden, who makes her think she can trade his life for her own freedom. So, yeah, dangerous game. Really interesting world building, it sounds like, though. Who knows if this is actually going to be the date this comes out, but we're rumoured to get the final, well, I presume the conclusion to the Villains series by V.E. Schwab Victorious in October. Hopefully it will happen, we'll see. I'm not going to go into this because I haven't read the second book yet, but I loved Vicious, so I'm really excited for this last book coming out. Gregory Maguire is still cashing in, I guess, on the Wicked hype. He came out with like a book called Elfie this year, I think it was, which I guess was Elphaba's childhood. I don't know if it was good or not, I haven't read it, but he's doing it again. He's now doing Galinda's childhood. I don't know if this will be good or not. We'll see. I wasn't really a big fan of the original Wicked book, so I haven't bothered to check out any of the others. I wouldn't think I would want to check out the sequels to the Wicked novel, but if Elfie is good, then I would maybe check that out, and I would maybe check Galinda out. Let me actually... Let's have a look at the reviews on Elfie. Ooh, that's not great. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, okay. I don't think Galinda's going to be that good then if Elfie wasn't that good. Moving on, Adeline Grace, who did the... God, what's the series called? Belladonna. She wrote the Belladonna series, is coming out with a new series that is actually going to be more high fantasy, as opposed to, like, the historical, like, gothic fantasy that she did. This is called The Wretched Divine. We're following someone called Aurelie, who was raised as a knight in a kingdom ravaged by demons. If Aurelie can claim her first kill, she'll inherit a legacy passed down through her bloodline, a soul bond with Uriel, an angel whose power is vital to her kingdom's survival. But then she ends up forging a second and far more dangerous bond with a demon called Severin instead. So, yeah, the Belladonna series didn't really work for me, but this sounds like it could maybe be more of my alley, so I heard her talking about it at Yalk, and it did actually sound quite interesting, so I'm down to give this a try. 6th of October it's due to come out. And then the final book we have, Adult Fantasy, is one that doesn't even really have a proper cover yet, but it is a Frankenstein-inspired dark fantasy romance. I'm probably not going to like it because I don't think I really am into dark fantasy romance, but it's Frankenstein, so I will check it out because I'm obsessed with Frankenstein. This is called The Fractured Souls by Nicole Scarano. Nothing else info-wise is coming out about it. The author has written other things before though, and honestly doesn't have bad ratings. She wrote this book, which is a romantasy called The Scattered Bones, and that's like pretty decent, so it could be good. We'll see.